Today's video is sponsored by Aura. The Resident Evil video game and movie franchises are known for their iconic and terrifying monsters. Some, like Nemesis and Birkin, are certainly among the most memorable, but amidst the chaos and horror, it's important to remember that these mutants were once normal people with dreams and goals. This is why some of the creatures encountered in the games evoke a sense of compassion. When first seen, your initial instinct might be to eliminate these threats as quickly as possible, especially when they appear as horrifying creatures intent on killing you. However, if we delve deeper into their stories, often revealed through various files and lore, we begin to understand the tragic paths that led them to become these monsters. Whether they were forcibly transformed or driven by the loss of loved ones, their stories can leave you wishing there was a way to save them or undo their suffering. For this reason, in today's video, we will explore the tragic stories of some of the enemies and monsters of Resident Evil. Number 10. Salvatore Moro. Salvatore Moro is one of the most repulsive antagonists in Resident Evil Village. He served under Mother Miranda alongside Alcina Dimitrescu, Karl Heisenberg, and Donna Benavento. Unlike his peers, Moro is the most heavily mutated and shunned, living a solitary life at the village's reservoir where he conducts experiments. Very little is known about Moro's past, but we do know that he comes from a noble family allied with other influential village families. It is implied that the Moros were physicians, as evidenced by the clinic at his reservoir. Mother Miranda kidnapped him to serve her in her quest to revive her daughter Eva. The Cadu parasite, which barely bonded with Moro, caused his severe physical and mental mutations. Despite his deteriorated brain function and grotesque appearance, Miranda included him among her 4 houses. Moro's mutation forced him to live near the reservoir, where he developed aquatic abilities. His hunchback and tumorous growths made him feel hideous, leading him to wear a cape to hide his deformities. Desperately seeking Mother Miranda's approval, he experimented on villagers, turning them into lichens. In Resident Evil Village, it is revealed that Mother Miranda discovers that Rosemary, the daughter of Ethan and Mia Winters, could be a perfect vessel for Eva. She kidnaps Rosemary and gives Moro a flask containing her arms to guard. Moro fears being discarded if the ceremony succeeds. He encounters Ethan during a confrontation with the other lords and later tries to prevent him from escaping his reservoir by using his enzymes to block the exit. In the ensuing battle, Moro transforms into a monstrous creature but is ultimately defeated by Ethan. During the fight, Moro seeks only Mother Miranda's approval and simultaneously complains about the great pain his mutation causes him. His last words are a desperate cry for Mother Miranda's help before he explodes. Despite his efforts, Ethan kills Mother Miranda and saves his daughter, sacrificing himself in the process. Moro's appearance is grotesque. His skin is a pale green-gray color, and he has a hunchback with tumorous growths and eyes. He possesses webbed hands and feet that help him move better in his aquatic environment, as well as pointed fangs and gills. Moro wears a full-body cloak and a hood adorned with a crown of bones to hide his deformities. In his transformed state, he becomes a massive semi-aquatic monster resembling a fish and a salamander, with multiple eyes and tumors on his back and a jaw that splits into 4 parts. Personality-wise, Moro is weak, submissive, and desperate for approval, particularly from Mother Miranda. He is generally despised by the other lords and struggles with low intelligence and a childish demeanor, which may result from the Cadu implantation. Despite his gullibility, Salvatore demonstrates some cunning, such as when he traps Ethan with his enzymes. Moro's powers include manipulating enzyme mass, vomiting acid, and transforming into a giant fish-like creature capable of leaping from water and devouring his enemies. Before we continue, I'd like to introduce the sponsor of today's video, Aura, and it's the perfect time to talk about them. Hackers may have stolen the social security numbers of every American. Over 2.9 billion records were stolen from National Public Data, a service that provides personal information for background checks. Now that information is online, potentially in the hands of hackers. These stolen records include full names, addresses, birth dates, social security numbers, phone numbers, and even alternate names. Worse, this hacker group reportedly released the data for free online. This makes me really uncomfortable and concerned. Personal information should be private. If you've ever experienced identity theft, you know how stressful and invasive it is. I've been through it, and the aftermath is a mess. If you haven't been protecting your data, now's the time to start. Your information has never been more vulnerable. I'm not as worried anymore because I use Aura, the sponsor of today's video. Aura constantly scans the dark web for my personal info, whether it's my phone number, email, or social security number. and alerts me immediately if it finds anything. If someone tries to use my information, Aura notifies me right away, and if the worst happens, they cover me with up to $5 million in identity theft insurance. Aura offers much more than monitoring. They've packed everything into one app, from password management to financial fraud protection. You can take control of your online safety right now by using the link in the description to try Aura free of charge for 14 days. That's plenty of time to see if your personal data is exposed. National public data won't protect you after this breach, and they likely won't face any consequences. But you can protect yourself. I'm not leaving my family vulnerable to data breaches, and you shouldn't either. Go to Aura.com using the link in the description to try it free for 2 weeks. Protect yourself before it's too late. Number 9. Alexander Ashford, later known as Nosferatu. Alexander Ashford, once a member of the noble Ashford family, became a monster due to the twisted experiments of his children, Alexia and Alfred Ashford. Alexander was the 6th Earl of the Ashford family and son of Edward Ashford. Despite helping his father study the progenitor virus, Alexander lacked notable virology skills. His expertise lay in genetic engineering, which he used to try to revive the Ashford family's reputation. Obsessed with the family's matriarch, Veronica Ashford, he combined her DNA with his own and a gene to increase intelligence, creating the twins Alfred and Alexia. Alexia exhibited extraordinary intelligence, while Alfred was only slightly above average. Horrified by how the twins were created and their disregard for humanity, Alexander hid the records of their creation in a secret chamber. Alexia became obsessed with the T. Veronica virus, intending to use it on herself and unleash it upon the world. Alexander worried about her plans, developed the linear launcher, a weapon designed to stop her if necessary. Alfred, resentful of his perceived inferiority to Alexia, discovered the truth about their creation and captured Alexander. He and Alexia used their father as a test subject for the T. Veronica virus. The virus mutated Alexander into a monstrous being, who then became known as Nosferatu, and he was imprisoned in a secret chamber for 15 years. Nosferatu was accidentally freed by Claire Redfield and Steve Burnside. The monster attacked them at the base's helipad, but Claire managed to kill him by targeting his exposed heart. His tragic existence as a mindless, monstrous experiment ended with a desperate cry for release. Nosferatu's body was later retrieved by Alexia. During her final confrontation with Chris and Claire Redfield, the linear launcher that Alexander had created was used to destroy her, ultimately avenging Alexander's suffering and ending the Ashford line. Before his mutation, Alexander was a selfish man obsessed with reviving his family's glory. Despite this, he showed a humane side, fearing his daughter's madness and developing the linear launcher to prevent her world domination plans. As Nosferatu, he became a mindless beast driven by rage and agony, but retained a fragment of his humanity, as seen when he pursued Claire and Steve after hearing Alfred's screams. Nosferatu possessed large tentacle-like appendages and could expel a deadly poisonous gas. In Resident Evil: The Darkside Chronicles, he was even more ferocious, with scythe-like appendages, the ability to spit bile, and the capability to hurl chunks of ice and explosive barrels. His exposed heart remained a critical weak point. Number 8. Deborah Harper. Deborah Harper, the younger sister of government agent Helena Harper, met a tragic fate due to a series of harrowing events. Born on October 10, 1992, Deborah was 4 years younger than Helena. After their parents died, Deborah maintained a spirited personality and became a university student, staying close to her sister. On one occasion, she found herself in an abusive relationship, which Helena ended by seriously injuring Deborah's boyfriend. This incident made Helena a target for Derek C. Simmons' manipulations. 3 days before the events of Resident Evil 6, Deborah and Helena were captured by Simmons and held in a laboratory beneath Tall Oaks Cathedral. Helena, desperate to protect her sister, pleaded with Simmons to release Deborah, even offering herself in exchange. Despite Helena's compliance in assassinating the president under Simmons' orders, Deborah was used as a test subject for the C virus. The family, Simmons' organization, injected Deborah with the C virus, hoping to observe its effects on her healthy body. Initially, there were no visible changes, and they abandoned her when Tall Oaks was quarantined. Shortly after, Leon and Helena found Deborah in the depths of the cathedral. Though briefly reunited, Deborah's condition rapidly deteriorated. Leon had to restrain Helena as they watched Deborah transform, covered by a strange substance hardening like a shell. The chrysalid cocoon cracked open, revealing a slimy, mutated Deborah. Ada Wong then shot Deborah in the head with her crossbow. Helena apologized to her sister, who began mutating further and violently pushed her away, triggering a battle with the mutated Deborah. Despite Helena's pleas to spare her sister, Ada reminded her that Deborah was trying to kill them. They attempted to escape the catacombs on a minecart, but Deborah caused it to crash, leaving Helena trapped while Deborah moved in to kill her. Leon and Ada acted quickly, rupturing Deborah's remaining appendage, stunning her and causing her to stagger off a cliff. Helena grabbed her hand, promised to avenge her, and then let Deborah fall to her death. After the incidents in Tall Oaks and Lenxiang, Helena visits Deborah's grave, placing flowers on it after avenging her sister's death by destroying Simmons. Before her mutation, Deborah was a tall, slim, and attractive young woman with green eyes and light brown hair. After the mutation, her appearance became grotesque, with pale green skin, red veins, and spider-like appendages sprouting from her back. Deborah displayed heightened strength and agility, and a disturbing, hypersexualized demeanor. Initially, Deborah was a carefree and loving sister, despite the friction between her and Helena. In a final note to her sister, she apologized and expressed her love, lamenting the fading memories of their relationship. Number 7. Donna Benavento. Donna Benavento is one of the 4 lords serving under Mother Miranda. Despite being physically frail and mentally ill, Donna compensates through her skillful manipulation of hallucinations, using her doll, Angie, to communicate and interact with the world. Donna was the only child of her parents and developed a deep fear of others due to a scar on her face. Her father created a doll named Angie to keep her company, leading to Donna's obsession with dolls and her unique way of speaking only through them. This behavior suggested a form of dissociative identity disorder. After her parents' death, Donna isolated herself at her family estate, Benavento House, dedicating her time to making dolls. Mother Miranda adopted Donna and experimented on her using the Cadu parasite and the megamycete, hoping to find a vessel for her deceased daughter, Eva. Although Donna adapted to the parasite, her mental instability deemed her unsuitable as a vessel. Nevertheless, Miranda allowed Donna to retain her home and status among the 4 lords. Donna used her abilities to control hallucinations, and due to her mutation, she can secrete a pheromone that can control plants infected with the megamycete to torment her victims. She lived in isolation at her estate, using her powers to control the valley and its inhabitants. When Miranda discovered Rose Winters, a potential vessel for Eva, she divided Rose's body parts among the lords. Donna received a part of Rose to guard. During a meeting with the other lords, Donna, speaking through Angie, watched as Ethan Winters was forced to face lichens and traps. After Ethan defeated Alcina Dimitrescu, he ventured to Benavento House to retrieve Rose's body part. Donna used her hallucinogens to make Ethan see his wife, Mia, and forced him to face a series of terrifying puzzles and encounters, including a grotesque creature called the Baby. Throughout Ethan's ordeal, Donna taunted him through Angie, exploiting his fears and memories. Eventually, Ethan fought his way to Donna, who used her dolls to attack him. Ethan stabbed Angie multiple times, only to realize he had been fighting Donna herself. Upon her death, Donna's body calcified and crumbled to dust, and Ethan collected Rose's flask. Donna's primary power was controlling dolls and inducing powerful hallucinations through hallucinogenic pollen. She relied on her intelligence to manipulate and torment her victims, using their deepest fears against them. Donna's mental instability and physical weakness made her rely on her powers rather than direct confrontation. Donna wore mourning garb and had a scar on her face with a mutated abscess, the Cadu, in her right eye. Despite her sadistic and malevolent actions, there were glimpses of her humanity, such as advising her gardener to plant flowers that allowed him to see his deceased wife. However, her ultimate fate was tragic, as her obsession with dolls and mental illness isolated her from the world, leading to her demise at the hands of Ethan Winters. Number 6. Rachel Foley. Rachel Foley, an agent of the Federal Bioterrorism Commission, embarked on a mission that would ultimately lead to her tragic death and horrifying transformation. Known for her optimistic demeanor, Rachel's story is one of courage, resilience, and heartbreaking loss. In 2005, Rachel and her partner Raymond Vester were dispatched to the Queen Zenobia, a ship that had played a key role in a terrorist attack on Terra Grigia a year prior. Their mission was to investigate and gather evidence related to the attack. However, the mission quickly became perilous. Rachel and Raymond separated due to the complexity of their tasks, with Rachel heading to the back of the ship. During her investigation, Rachel discovered slime and was ambushed by an ooze creature. Despite shooting it several times, the creature continued to pursue her. Rachel managed to evade it and entered a hallway filled with more oozes. After running out of ammunition, she threw her gun away and fled to an elevator, where another ooze attacked her, severely injuring her leg. In a final attempt to survive, Rachel locked herself in the research room. There, Rachel was overpowered by another ooze, which fed on her bodily fluids and infected her with the T-Abyss virus. Jill Valentine, another key protagonist, arrived just in time to witness Rachel lose consciousness after being thrown against a window. Rachel's mission, which she had feared from the start, ended in tragedy as the virus took hold. Shortly after Rachel slipped into a coma, the T-Abyss virus mutated her into a unique and horrifying form of ooze. Jill returned to the research room to find Rachel's body missing, only to be attacked by the mutated Rachel. Despite taking heavy damage, Rachel's mutated form continued to reappear and attack, showing an alarming resilience to gunfire. Jill and her partner Parker Luciani faced Rachel multiple times until she seemed to be permanently destroyed when the Queen Zenobia exploded. Rachel was known for her optimistic and cheerful personality, which strongly contrasted with the harsh reality of her world. She was supportive and lively, often unzipping her FBC tactical suit to reveal her cleavage, complementing her vibrant persona. Despite her outward confidence, Rachel harbored deep fears about the mission. Her diary entries revealed her reluctance and pessimism, fearing that the mission could be her last. Rachel's fear was not unfounded. Her mission was filled with horror and pain, from losing an eye to feeling her body mutate. She described her experience in her diary, noting the intense pain, the splitting of her right arm, and the sight of her own bones. Despite her fears and the agony she endured, Rachel continued to fight for survival. This tragic character was a young woman with blonde hair, often partially covering her eyes. She had a healthy, fair but slightly tanned complexion. Her FBC tactical suit was unzipped around her waist, revealing her large cleavage, which complemented her cheerful and confident demeanor. She also wore a thigh holster for her gun, ready for action despite her reservations about the mission. Number 5. Steve Burnside. Steve Burnside was a young prisoner sent to Rockfort Island alongside his father. His father, an employee of the Umbrella Corporation, was caught selling company secrets, leading to their imprisonment. Tragically, Steve's mother was killed during their capture. Steve and his father were held in Rockfort Island's prison until a bioterrorist attack by HCF caused a T-virus outbreak, turning the island into a nightmare. During their escape, Steve and his father were separated, but Steve managed to survive the initial zombie onslaught and soon encountered Claire Redfield. Mistaking her for a zombie, Steve attacked her but quickly realized his mistake. They decided to work together to find a way off the island. Steve initially left Claire to find an aeroplane but later rejoined her in the monitoring room, where he discovered that her brother, Chris Redfield, was under Umbrella's surveillance. Steve's impulsive and reckless nature led him to several dangerous situations. He imprudently claimed the gold Lugers, triggering a trap that Claire had to disarm. Despite these challenges, Steve saved Claire's life multiple times, notably from a bandersnatch, demonstrating his bravery and growing attachment to her. The most heartbreaking moment came when Steve encountered his father, now a zombie. Paralyzed by shock and unable to act, he watched in horror as his father approached Claire. In a desperate move, Steve shot his father to save Claire, a decision that left him emotionally shattered. Steve confided in Claire about his past, explaining how his father's betrayal led to their imprisonment and his mother's death. After escaping Rockfort Island in a plane set to autopilot by Alfred Ashford, the pair crash-landed in the Antarctic facility. There they faced new horrors, including a vengeful Alfred and the monstrous Nosferatu. Despite the dangers, Steve's determination to protect Claire never wavered. Their escape attempt was thwarted by Alexia Ashford, who injected Steve with the T. Veronica virus, causing him to mutate into a monstrous form. In his transformed state, Steve attacked Claire with a giant axe. However, a moment of lucidity allowed him to break free from the virus's control long enough to save Claire from one of Alexia's tentacles, sacrificing himself in the process. In his final moments, Steve reverted to his human form and confessed his feelings to Claire, expressing his love and gratitude for her companionship. He succumbed to his injuries at the tender age of 17, leaving Claire heartbroken. Steve's body was collected by HCF to extract the T. Veronica virus. Albert Wesker, a prominent antagonist in the Resident Evil series, hinted to Chris Redfield that Steve could potentially be revived, tormenting Claire and Chris with this possibility. In the years following his death, Steve's story continued to impact those around him. Albert Wesker later used a sample of the T. Veronica virus from Steve's body to help Javier Hidalgo's ailing daughter, Manuela, in exchange for money and power. Steve was a young man with brown hair and a youthful, rebellious demeanor. Despite his initial recklessness and impulsiveness, he displayed remarkable courage and loyalty, particularly towards Claire. His journey from a scared, reluctant prisoner to a self-sacrificing hero underscores the depth of his character. Steve's tragic end highlights the harsh realities of the Resident Evil universe, where even the bravest and most selfless individuals can fall victim to the horrors of bioterrorism. Number 4. Curtis Miller. Curtis Miller's story in Resident Evil Degeneration is a heart-wrenching tale of loss, vengeance, and tragic transformation. Once a loving family man and dedicated scientist, Curtis's life took a dark turn after the Raccoon City incident. Curtis Miller was a researcher at the Will Pharma Corporation in 2005. His career took a nosedive when he aggressively opposed Will Pharma's T-virus vaccination program, leading to his dismissal and arrest. The true catalyst for his downfall was the Raccoon City destruction incident, which claimed the lives of his wife and daughter. This devastating loss drove Curtis to seek the truth and hold the United States accountable for the catastrophe. Born and raised in Harvardville, Curtis became deeply involved in activism against bioterrorism. He joined TerraSave to protest against Will Pharma, but his extreme measures and violent threats led to his expulsion from the group. Curtis became a scapegoat, used by Will Pharma to divert attention from their illegal activities. Curtis's journey of vengeance reached its climax when he infiltrated Will Pharma's research lab. A bomb detonated, and he infected himself with the G-virus, likely provided by Frederick Downing. Despite his sister Angela's efforts to save him, Curtis succumbed to the virus and began a horrifying transformation. As he mutated, Curtis lost his sense of self and attacked a heavily armed Marine squad. In his monstrous form, driven by the G-virus's instinctive desire to reproduce, he turned on Angela, but Leon S. Kennedy intervened, temporarily stopping Curtis by crushing him with metal scaffolding. However, Curtis's mutation continued, becoming even more grotesque. In a brief moment of lucidity, Curtis saw a picture of his family and urged Angela to flee, expressing his desire not to harm her. But as he lost his humanity again, he attacked, and Leon shot him, causing Curtis to release Angela and fall to his death. Before the tragedy, Curtis was a devoted husband, father, and older brother. He was kind and honorable, consoling his sister Angela and supporting his family. However, the loss of his family consumed him with grief and an unrelenting pursuit of truth and justice, turning him aggressive and combative. Before his transformation, Curtis was a well-groomed man with short dark hair, usually dressed in professional attire. After the Raccoon City incident, he adopted a more rugged look, with long hair and a dark green trench coat. Post-mutation, Curtis became a grotesque monster with a massive eye on his shoulder, elongated arms, and clawed hands, similar to William Birkin's transformation, but with a more reptilian appearance. Number 3. The Baker Family. The Baker family's story in Resident Evil 7 Biohazard is deeply tragic, filled with horror and loss as they fall victim to the manipulative and destructive influence of Evelyn. Before Evelyn's arrival, the Bakers were a loving and caring family. Jack and Marguerite Baker were known for their kind-hearted nature, often helping strangers in need. The family had a long history of military service, evident from the numerous memorabilia and decorations in their home. However, the family had its issues. Lucas Baker exhibited antisocial behavior, likely stemming from childhood problems, and Joe Baker chose to live a secluded life away from the rest of the family. Despite these minor dysfunctions, the Bakers were generally a quiet and close-knit family. Everything changed when Evelyn, a bioweapon with the ability to control minds, infected the Bakers. Her desire for a family led her to manipulate and dominate the Bakers, turning them into sadistic, violent, and cannibalistic individuals. The once loving family became a nightmare, with erratic and dangerous behavior, especially towards intruders. Jack and Marguerite, under Evelyn's control, became unstable and often fought violently, only to reconcile shortly after. Zoe and Lucas, their children, were affected differently. Zoe resisted Evelyn's control, isolating herself from the rest of the family and aiding any survivors she could contact. In contrast, Lucas embraced his psychopathic tendencies, enjoying the torture and manipulation of captives, and fully participating in the family's horrific activities. Evelyn's twisted desire for a family drove her to control and corrupt the Bakers. She made Jack, Marguerite, and Lucas her protectors, forcing them to kidnap and terrorize others to expand her family. Jack, infected and deranged, became fiercely protective of his role as Evelyn's father, to the point of attempting to kill Ethan Winters, whom Evelyn wanted as her new dad. Mia Winters, assigned as Evelyn's caretaker during an escort mission, was also infected and manipulated to become part of the family as Evelyn's mother. Despite her knowledge of Evelyn's powers and her attempts to contain the situation, Mia succumbed to the infection. becoming violent and sadistic. However, her deep love for her husband Ethan remained, and she fought against Evelyn's control when forced to attack him. Joe Baker, largely unaffected by the events that plagued his family, lived a secluded life. His deep love for his family was evident when he discovered his niece Zoe in a deteriorating state. He fiercely protected her from the molded creatures and the Blue Umbrella forces sent to rescue her, showcasing his enduring loyalty and love. Number 2. Hilda Hidalgo. Hilda Hidalgo's story is one of love, desperation, and tragic transformation. As the wife of Javier Hidalgo and mother of Manuela, Hilda's life took a dramatic turn when she contracted a fatal disease native to their region in South America around 1991. Years later, a researcher from the Umbrella Corporation offered Javier the T-virus as a possible cure for Hilda's illness. Initially, the virus seemed to work miracles, destroying the cancer cells in her body and restoring her strength. However, after 2 months, the virus backfired, causing a rapid deterioration in Hilda's health and transforming her into a monstrous, amphibian creature. Despite her mutation, Hilda retained enough humanity to recognize her husband and daughter, refraining from attacking them. The sound of Manuela singing a familiar lullaby even calmed the beast, indicating a lingering connection to her former self. Javier kept the mutated Hilda in a special room, hiding her from the outside world. In 2002, during a T-virus outbreak in the village of Mixcot, Hilda was released from her confinement. Leon S. Kennedy and Jack Krauser encountered her briefly, witnessing her monstrous form dragging a guide's corpse through a hole. Later, she appeared to observe Manuela in a church before engaging Leon and Krauser in battle. Hilda's mutation granted her powerful abilities, including long tentacles, the ability to spit acidic fluids, tremendous strength, and the capacity to launch deadly bone projectiles from her tail. Her new biology was primarily adapted for an aquatic environment, but she could also fight effectively on land. Initially, her entire body was vulnerable to damage, but over time her skin hardened, becoming bulletproof and turning a red-orange color, reflecting her anger. However, this transformation also exposed vulnerable spots on her deformed face and neck, which Leon and Krauser targeted in their final battle. During the intense confrontation, Hilda attacked with relentless fury, even impaling Krauser with bone spears. Despite her monstrous form, a moment of clarity emerged as she lay dying. She shed a tear and bid farewell to her daughter, indicating a fleeting return of her humanity before succumbing to her wounds. Hilda's transformation was the direct result of the experimental T-virus, possibly the TJCCC203 variant, designed to cure cancer but ultimately backfiring. Number 1. Lisa Trevor. Lisa Trevor's story in Resident Evil is a haunting tale of abduction, experimentation, and tragic transformation. Her life, forever altered by Umbrella's ruthless experiments, underscores the horrors of bioweapon research and the profound suffering of its victims. Lisa Trevor was born around 1953, the daughter of George and Jessica Trevor. George, an architect, was tasked with designing the elaborate Spencer Mansion in the Arklay Mountains. In November 1967, George's work led to the Trevor family being invited to stay at the mansion. However, upon arrival, Jessica and Lisa were detained by security guards under Dr. Oswald Spencer's orders. They were taken to an underground cavern where they were injected with different strains of the newly discovered progenitor virus as part of Spencer's eugenics experiments. Jessica's body rejected the virus, leading to her execution. Lisa, however, reacted differently. Her body began to mutate, developing superhuman strength and regenerative abilities, although her mental state deteriorated. Over the next few days, Lisa was subjected to further experiments, during which she became increasingly unstable. When a Spencer employee impersonated Jessica in an attempt to pacify Lisa, she reacted violently, believing the woman had stolen her mother's face. For the next 28 years, Lisa was kept in captivity beneath the Spencer mansion and later in the Arklay laboratory. Her existence was kept secret, known only to a few researchers. During this time, Lisa's mental state continued to deteriorate, and she was often kept chained to her bed. She was used extensively in bioweapons research, particularly by Dr. William Birkin. In 1988, an attempt to implant a Nemesis alpha-type parasite in her failed, as her immune system destroyed the organism. This incident partially restored her consciousness, making her a greater threat to those around her. In 1995, after Lisa killed 3 researchers, Umbrella executives ordered her execution. Due to her regenerative abilities, the Umbrella Security Service declared her dead only after waiting 3 days. However, Lisa survived and lived in the Arklay Mountains, becoming a recluse. In May 1998, following a T-virus outbreak at the Arklay laboratory, Lisa's territory expanded to include the Spencer mansion and its surroundings. She constructed a home out of a cabin near the mansion, using tunnels beneath the estate. During the events of the mansion incident, Lisa attacked several members of the Raccoon Police Department's Special Tactics and Rescue Service. In a climactic encounter, Lisa finally recovered her mother's remains, buried in a stone coffin, and jumped into an abyss with her skull. Shortly afterwards, in the chaos of the mansion's self-destruction, she encountered Dr. Albert Wesker, recognizing him as one of her tormentors. Despite her attempts to exact revenge, Wesker escaped, and Lisa was pinned down by a falling chandelier as the mansion exploded. Before her abduction, Lisa was a normal young girl. After her mutation, she became a grotesque figure with powerful tentacles, the ability to spit acidic fluids, and immense strength. Her new biology suited both aquatic and terrestrial environments. Her appearance included a severely deformed face and exposed brain matter, making her a truly tragic and horrifying figure.
Hey, don't go just yet. If you enjoyed my video, I'd love to recommend another one for you to watch.